How do you recover from a setback? That's exactly what we're discussing today on the Manifesting Guide. But just before we do that, if you're done with pushing and forcing yourself to get things done without results, come find your Manifest Without Force or Frustration gift at highertrueself.com. It's completely free. And if you'd like notifications when we release a new episode, go to highertrueself.com/podcast. So today's episode is 42, How to Recover from a Setback. Now, setbacks could be either something you really wanted to happen and didn't happen. So it might have been a goal or an intention, an objective. Or it might be life was going along pretty well, and then all of a sudden something comes in from the side and you had no expectation. You don't know how to handle it. But either way, there's disappointment. So the first thing to do is recognize the disappointment, recognizing the loss. And I don't think as humans we're trained to deal with grief. I think we're on a mission to accomplish more, do more, be more, grow more, more. I mean, there are many trainers out there who talk about that, and people who are in the manifesting realm. It's all about more. I don't think that's the way to peacefulness and a satisfying and fulfilling life. So how do we recognize the loss? Because it is a loss. And the first thing is to own your feelings and notice, I'm feeling a little sad. That didn't happen. I really wanted that to happen. Or if something again was going really well and all of a sudden you feel like the rug was pulled out from under you, recognize first the shock that, oh, wow, you may not even know how to respond to something. So recognize that. Breathe. Many of us go right into that fight or flight when something comes in from the side, and it's like, a car accident. You don't anticipate a car accident. You don't anticipate a drop in income or a job loss or a divorce. You don't. You're going along, happy little clam, living your life, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got to deal with it. So first thing, recognize that you've experienced a loss. Allow the grief, allow the sadness. And then second, recognize that you are now in a state of shock. So what does that mean? Well, in my work, I notice when someone is in fight or flight, that stress hormone that gets released by the adrenal glands to prepare us to handle danger shuts down our higher reasoning. It shuts down access to our prefrontal cortex. And that's the place, that's the more evolved part of our brain. That's what separates us out from the animal kingdom. And I'm not saying humans, for the most part, are superior to animals by any means. Sometimes animals act in superior ways than some humans. But that prefrontal cortex, that's what switches on when you're in possibilities, when you're imagining, when you are maybe dreaming of your next vacation and you've booked it and you're thinking where you're going to go, what you're going to do, or that you've just set a big intention, maybe to buy a house or to move or start a business. And so you're in that possibility phase. You know that feeling, right? You've been there. It's like anything's possible. So when we tap into that infinite possibilities, that prefrontal cortex switches on. And that means we are no longer in fight or flight. We are now into the next step. What's next? But it's really hard to get to that what's next if we don't acknowledge those first two steps. Remember, first, recognize the loss. Feel the grieving, feel the disappointment. Second, recognize the shock. The shock that life is not going on as it was before. And third stage, let's say, which you can't really get into wholly and fully until you do the first two, is you tap into the infinite possibilities. So here's a quick way that is fabulous. I've used this many times. Say a relationship ended. Maybe there were some good parts around it, maybe there weren't. Write down the things that irritated you about it. You can even do this with any loss. Maybe it's a loss of income, a loss of a big client who used to pay a good amount of your monthly revenue, or loss of health, okay? So write down all the things that irritated you about what was going on in that relationship, in that job, with that client, all the things that were irritating. We're not focusing on the good part here, guys. We're focusing on the things that irritated us that we don't want to experience again. There's a method to this madness here. Stick with me. Write those things down, please. Or do it later if you're listening to this while you're working out or driving. Okay. Now I'd like you to flip it. So say there was a particular client who was expecting extra treatment. So they would contact you in the middle of the night, asking you to help them with this, talk out an issue, or when you were working with them, they would extend the time. And the time was maybe 50 minutes or an hour. And you notice that you always worked longer with that client. Or maybe this client, they would hit a stumbling block and they would blame the processes, blame that they're not getting it because you're not doing something. Okay, that's working with the client. But how about the ending of a relationship? Well, it could be that there were things that you recognized were not working, but you shoved them under the carpet. You focused on the positive, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm definitely a silver lining in the cloud kind of gal. But I'd like you to write them down and then flip it. What would you have liked to experience with that client, with that relationship? Or let's talk about health. So maybe that you were having great health and then all of a sudden something happened, you got sick, and you weren't able to go about your life as usual. You had to stop, you had to change things. Now, this is a little more subtle one because often when things are going well, we're not so aware, we're not so awake. Isn't that weird? We just kind of accept and we anticipate, we expect things are going to continue as they are. But when we get a sickness or an illness, it's like everything is sharpened. Our senses are sharpened. Everything is heightened. And our appreciation for our good health, we're no longer feeling that because we're in discomfort, we're in pain, and we can't do the things we're used to doing. So focusing back to those difficult moments when you were sick, write those down. Maybe no energy, maybe you couldn't think, brain fog, difficulty sleeping, pain, write all those things down and flip it, okay? So flipping it from pain, don't just write pain-free, that you're able to, what's that pain-free allow you to do? You're able to easily run, do yoga, and the movements are easy and comfortable, or sleep is deep and rejuvenating. You go to sleep at 10 p.m. and you wake up at 6 with all sorts of vigorous energy and optimism. You getting the idea? So what you're doing is not, I wouldn't say turning lemons into lemonade, but it is informing your unconscious mind what you want next. Because we're talking about how to overcome a setback. We don't want to stay in the setback time, that period, for very long, do we? We do want to move into what's next. So it's informing you, your consciousness, and your unconscious mind what you would like next. So in that next relationship, that next client, that next phase of health and well-being, maybe there were things that you were tolerating about your food choices and you were accepting them, and now you see, no, eating sugar every day was keeping my body in a state of like acid, and it started to give me some acid reflux. I don't want to go back to that. So you're going to be consciously curating the experiences of that life situation. That is a setback. It's gone. It's a part of your life that is not coming back, and you don't want it to, because you're seeing all the things that you had gone to sleep to. the irritations, the accommodations that you made, that if you were aware, you wouldn't choose that. It's kind of like the frog being slowly cooked in the water. And we don't notice the subtle adaptations and the shifts. Another one about health. If you've ever had a health issue where you started to put on weight, sometimes it can be sudden. It's like it was rapid weight gain. Well, that's an awareness. It's an underlying health issue. Yes, the weight gain gets our attention, but it gives us an opportunity to consciously curate our life today. I remember one of my early teachers, he said, you only have 24 hours. That's it. You have 24 hours. What are you talking about? We live 70, 80, 90 years. He said, no. When you go to sleep at night, there's a reset. And whatever you have accomplished in that 24 hours can be wiped away. And you get fresh start. But if you're progressing and you are on a path of personal growth and spiritual development, you want to mark that growth. How do you do that? By recognizing it, calling it over to yourself. So if you had a setback, did you go through those stages pretty smoothly? Did you not drop into resistance? Because that's one of the things that will prevent us from stepping into the new possibilities, is resisting the loss, resisting the change. We all do it. Oh my gosh, I feel it right now in my heart. The times in my life when I've resisted something. And I don't know about you, but sometimes those things that I resisted the most, they turned out to be the best things, the losses, the best things in my life. And I'm grateful that life changed. So let's recap how to recover from a setback. First, feel the loss, feel the grief. Allow yourself to feel sad, uncertain. And then second, is recognizing that you're in shock. And this is one thing I did not mention, I need to bring it up now, is don't make decisions from that place of shock. Please don't make decisions from that place of shock. You are tapping into that primal fear, fight and flight, and anxiety. No decisions ever are good decisions when we're coming from fear, because they're from protection. So allow yourself to accept, I'm in shock, I'm not making decisions, I'm just going to process this. And allow yourself to process it, whatever it takes. Then maybe give yourself amount of time. Okay, I'm going to let this go on for a few days or a week. And then when that, put it on the calendar, 7 days is up, you've grieved, you've accepted the shock, you've moved through any resistance, and now you're tapping into infinite possibilities. So start from what you didn't like about the last thing, and make sure that you don't include in the next chapter. Now, if you're done with pushing and forcing yourself to get things done without results, come find your Manifest Without Force or Frustration gift at highertrueself.com. It's completely free. Remember, self-confirmation frees you to be yourself. So much love, many blessings. Bye for now.